Good morning, Collision. Thank you all for joining us at the center stage this morning. Here with me are three inspirational technological leaders who have led their respective companies through 3 years of political and social turmoil and continue to do so in today's rapidly evolving technological landscape. So would you like to start by briefly introducing yourselves?
Yeah, I'm PJ, CTO of OutSystems.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Christine Spang. I'm the founder and CTO of a tech company called Nylas. We're a developer platform that makes it super easy for folks to connect their end users' email and calendar accounts to their applications.
And hi everyone, my name is Peter Koerte. I'm the CTO and Chief Strategy Officer at Siemens. And we tend to think of ourselves as Germany's oldest startup, which is only 175 years.
Thank you for that. So as we've seen at this conference so far, AI and emerging technologies are evolving at lightning speed. How are you able to stay on top of this rapidly evolving landscape? Would you like to start, PJ?
Sure, I'll go. It's challenging. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's, personally, you have to, absorb this just like fire hose of information, continuously. Your company and your teams have to stay on top of it. I think that to do that effectively, you have to build a culture of innovation. Kind of what is a culture of innovation? I mean, it's the willingness and the ability for people to be intellectually curious and to fail whenever they need to fail, right? Because you have to try hard, and not everything is going to work out. But if you have the opposite, where people can't go out, try new things, stay on top of new things, see where they stick, they're going to pull in and they're not going to learn, right? So you got to have that culture of innovation. Learning is built into the process. You expect failure as part of it, which is, it's challenging for people to understand what that means to actually build in failure as an objective. But you want teams to go try things that don't stick and work out. And I think it's this, whether it's AI, whether it was cloud, mobile, cloud native, whatever it is, the same principles apply. You have to have that culture of innovation that is built into how you do, your work.
Yeah. And Christine?
Yeah, first off, I just want to tell everyone here that even the people I know that work in AI feel kind of overwhelmed by how much change and sort of the pace of things being released. So it's kind of a universal feeling out there, and don't feel alone. I would say that as a technical leader, there's a few things I lean on. One is that I have a team of around 60 people, and I really rely a lot on those folks who are really in the weeds to really introduce me to some of the latest developments and what's the most interesting things to be looking at. So we have a shared Slack channel that we have. It's called #MachineLearning, and folks there share latest updates, new releases, interesting papers, things like that. I'm a big fan of reading sort of high-level survey papers and things that talk about applications and just generally high-level how this new tech works. I use a tablet, sync those papers to a tablet and just read them on the couch at home. But I think that it's a very common and big challenge as a technical leader that often you get into this position by being really good at building things, and then when you are in that position, you know exactly how everything works under the hood. And I think one of the biggest challenges about leading a team is getting really comfortable with delegating and also learning through others, and using that to kind of try to stay as sharp as you can.
Well, yeah, adding to what Christine said is, first and foremost, I think because there's so much technology coming in the meanwhile our way, that it is very important that you filter and that you really understand about what you're doing, but in particular what you're not doing. In other words, what's not so relevant. I'll give you an example. Of course, AI, and I get there in a second, is hugely important. We have a huge debate about quantum computing. So should we invest into quantum computing at this point, yes or no? And we clearly said no, because we're not going to build quantum computers. We're going to use them, though. So we're going to stay somewhat engaged, but we're not going deep. So therefore, we just, we look at what's happening. Whereas in AI, we really have to go deep. So first and foremost, really understanding where you go and where you're not going. And then going deep, though. Really, there's so many buzzwords, and really trying to cut through the fog of buzzwords and seeing how does it really work on the ground level. So exactly as Christine said, is important. Second, we believe really in tech with purpose. That is always thinking about, okay, this is the technology, but what is the opportunity that you can bring to make things better? And so in AI, for example, if we can say, you know what, this is really speeding up, for example, design such that you can better build cars or trains or whatever that is, and you can reduce CO2 emissions, increase productivity and all of that, that's good. So this is then the direction we're taking. But it really takes a use case in mind that you have to come up with. Which gets me to the third point, which is really about AI. And from my vantage point is, it's not so much about the technology, it's more about the humans that very often feel threatened by it. In other words, they say, you know what, in particular in AI, if you think about, we have 24,000 software developers. How do they feel now about AI? Because you hear about Copilot and all these things making you 40% more productive, so immediately what they hear is, you are after my job. So why should I engage? And so that's why taking that fear away and saying, you know what, this is a companion, we try to rephrase it and say, this is a companion that helps you to achieve your goal faster is really the key thing. So motivating your people, listening carefully to their needs, I guess really makes the difference.
No, I'd love to hear more about how you're able to sort of change people's minds about AI, about other technologies, because a lot of us are worried about where these technologies are going. So I would love to hear how you're making people see the more positive side of AI and technology and abolishing these misconceptions.
Yeah, I mean, look, AI is like any other technology. It can be used for good or bad, right? I mean, there's nothing inherently bad about AI, just like any other technology. You can look at it very similar to, say the nuclear arms race in the 50s and 60s and 70s, right, that happened. We could use it for bad, there's no doubt about it. I believe that it will have a positive impact on society. I think it is one of the, I think it's gonna be bigger than the internet, the late 90s, early 2000s on the impact. I think on, commercial activity, society as a whole, I'm very positive about it. I think it's gonna do good. But going back to your question, I think that people need to have meaning in what they do, and so people are afraid of the future, their motivation, morale is going to be low, and that's it. Okay, what are you using? Kind of like what Peter talked about. It's the use case of AI. What are we doing with AI to make people's lives better? What's the application of that? And when you drive that mission of what you're on, you think about, like at OutSystems, we're here to make developers' lives better. I mean, that's what we think about. You think about how much software exists in the world, how much software is used every single day. If we can make that a little better, if we can open it up to more and more developers, and we use AI to do that, to basically bring down the complexity of software development, that's an awesome thing, right? I mean, there's 6 billion plus people with smartphones and computers and everything else that use software every day. Shouldn't we have more people writing software? Hey, let's use AI to increase the number of people who write software and have a better life doing that, which will improve the experience of users using software. And then there's very little fear in people as far as wow, okay, AI is going to serve a purpose. So it comes back to meaning, it comes back to why. You have to start with why, you have to start with meaning. And then I think, people are not afraid. They see a bright future because they're using it for a good purpose.
Well, that's fantastic. And Christine?
Yeah, PJ, I really resonated with what you were saying about, sort of AI technology being empowering to more people, to being able to essentially, take advantage of the leverage of computing systems. I think that for a long time, we've tried to build new interfaces that sort of simplify the process of programming, and usually we've done that through visual interfaces or kind of sort of conditional drop-downs, if this and that type stuff. And AI is kind of, or large language models in specific, have brought us this new paradigm where people can essentially program through natural language. And I think that is a really empowering thing for a lot of folks. When it comes to my own team, definitely, especially kind of, a few months ago, I heard, a lot of fear and uncertainty from folks around, is this going to take my job? Is programming going to go away? Things like that. But, my perspective is that people have been worrying about technology taking away jobs for hundreds of years, maybe thousands at this point in time. And so far it hasn't happened. Certain types of jobs have gone away, but we always evolve to to find new and interesting and more impactful things to work on. And I think actually a lot of the job of a technical leader is showing people what is the impact of their work and focusing on the impact. And I think there's a lot of really great benefits of the efficiency that comes from using this AI technology. You know, if your team can do 10 or 20% more today by using the tools that are available today, and projecting out a year or two can be maybe 50% more effective, it's actually really fun to work in teams that are small and super effective and able to get a lot done. So I think that's a framing that can be really empowering for folks of, you know, not shrinking in size, but being able to get more done at your current size, and creating those really high bandwidth, really effective teams where people have strong bonds with each other and you're not an anonymous cog in the machine.
Yeah, well, maybe adding to it, and it's true that the large language models now that we see, the reason, I guess, and I really wondered, why is it that now, honestly, in every single meeting I go, the topic of large language models is coming up. I've never seen anything like that, never. And I wondered, why is that the case? And I think it is because the technology has matured such that the human-machine interface is so simple and it's so natural, so that, of course, now everybody really can relate to this. This is not just for the techies, this is really now for the general public. And so I think this is the reason why it is being so on everybody's mind. But if you think about it, we started 20, 30 years ago with machine learning, deep learning, and really getting into this. So that's basically, it's not new, if you like. However, its application now, because it's becoming simpler, now, of course, we think about in all kinds of discussions where you can think about, of course, in legal, how can you apply it? In HR, how can you apply it? On the shop floor, how can you train robots so that in your natural language, you can say, robot, go from A to B, pick this up, and so on. So in that sense, I think this is really wonderful. But I really want to make the point that this is not new. And we've done that for autonomous driving trains, for autonomous vehicle grids on Hawaii, for example, that we built, for grippers that do, you know, pick and grasp in factories. So in that sense, this is definitely already here, but it becomes more pervasive now throughout the company.
Yeah, I think one thing though that you mentioned, the whole LLM aspect of it, the language aspect of it, right? The ability to interact in a way that is much more human-like. That is so different now, right, with the emergent abilities. And I think that is something that really, it's almost like we have to unwire how we think about writing software, interacting with the machine. You know, it's just a very different way to interact. And, you know, that is which is awesome and amazing, but it's a bit of a paradigm shift, right, of using it. Even though it has been around for many years, it's a very different way of interacting at this point.
Yeah. There's a certain sense as to which it bothers me as a technologist that, like, this is where we've ended up, where you know, we're essentially starting to program computers using a very messy thing, which is human language, which, you know, if you talk to a lawyer, we try to be really specific with just, you know, English or, you know, any sort of language that people talk to each other with, but it's very imprecise. And you know, I went to the university at MIT, and, you know, there you study, like, programming languages a lot, and you'd like to think the right solution would have been to just make a better, more powerful programming language that's easier to learn. But there's this concept called worse is better, which is that, you know, the really nice, shiny, elegant technical solution is not always the thing that succeeds in the real world. And I keep coming back to that when I think about the fact that the winning solution is that we're going to start programming by talking to our computers. Yep. And, you know, I think, I guess that's okay.
It does feel weird, though, doesn't it?
It's kind of messed up.
Yeah, clearly your roles involve a lot of people management and sort of social and political conversations, as well as technical expertise. I'd love to know sort of what skills have been the most beneficial for you in your roles.
Yeah, I think, you know, as a leader, I mean, there's a few things, right? If you're in a technology company, you know, you have to be able to move fast as a leader. You have to build a good, strong, integrated strategy across the company that starts with why. I'm a big believer in understanding the why and the meaning. But then as a leader, you have to be humble, you have to be vulnerable. So kind of going back to that concept of the learning culture, the ability to fail, as a leader, you know, you're setting a vision. You have to communicate it well. But we make mistakes. I mean, just like everybody else on the team, you make mistakes. And if you tell your team, hey, it's okay to make mistakes, but you're never vulnerable, you're not authentic, then you're not going to be trusted. You know, so I think as a leader, you have to be authentic. You have to be vulnerable in the sense if you make a mistake, you get up and you talk about your mistake, and you talk about what you learned from it, and you talk about how you're not going to make the same mistake again. You know, you're going to learn. And I think that's absolutely one of the most critical aspects of a technology leader, which is focusing on the people and the why and what you're here about, and just making sure that culture of innovation continues on.
No, that celebration of failure is so important.
Absolutely.
What about you, Christine?
Well, I think Peter should chime in. It's more airtime.
Well, I agree with everything that PJ said. I would add, though, is because everything is moving so fast, of course, that growth mindset for sure is very important, but also the empowerment. You have to let go because it's impossible to, you know, comprehend everything at this point. So you have to believe your experts and empower them to make those decisions, even if they might be wrong. And I fully agree with that. There's no playbook that will tell you this is the way you deploy the latest technologies. So therefore, if you fail, that's fine, but then rectify or then you know, fix it quickly so that you have to react to it. The one thing that I would like to just add from a competency perspective, content-wise, is user experience. Because this is a topic that is very much undervalued when you think about design thinking and really thinking about the user of how he or she is going to interact with the technology and immerse yourself into the user that use the technology day in, day out. That makes really the difference, which gets us back to the LLM discussion about why now.
Yeah, you know, that autonomy aspect, I think, is absolutely critical, especially in this day and age with AI and because we're asking these teams to move so fast, they have to have autonomy to make these decisions down where the work happens, right? I mean, it's absolutely critical.
Yeah. I have like a super totally out of right field contribution in terms of like what skills are important. You know, I mentioned earlier that you usually get into a leadership position by being really great at building things. But that's not what makes you the most effective leader once you have a large team. So I want to throw out there that I think emotional self-management is something that's been really valuable to work on for myself. Just being able to take a step back and see why you're reacting certain ways. I think when delegating, when listening, putting other people first, those are things that are really important when you get to be working with a large team of other people.
Great.
Love it.
Well, thank you all so much for your insights this morning, and thank you for joining us here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference.